Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how to make faux stepping stones.
These stepping stones. I mean, the fake.
Here I'm making a kind of a tiny Japanese garden with rhododendrons and hostas and all that kind of things. And here I'm going to make a tiny fountain. This hypertufa bowl, which I also made recently, actually is gonna be a fountain. And what I needed was to make a pathway going through the garden to the fountain, but unfortunately I had none of stepping stones I wanted for this space. What I wanted was to have very ancient looking textured stones, but none of local garden centers here had stones of this kind. And when I made hypertufa planters, I told myself, girl, this material is perfect for making stepping stones. And I thought I'm going to give it a try. If you're new here, my name is Irene, and here is how it turned out.
I'll start with making a mold. First, I'm cutting a piece of corrugated cardboard into strips about 5 inches wide. Here you want the corrugation to run across the strip to be able to bend it easily. Next, I'm actually bending the stripes to make them curved. And connecting several strips into one if necessary. I'm connecting the strip pieces together using a heavy-duty duct tape. And also connecting the ends of the strip to have a circle big enough. This is gonna be the stone contour. After that, I'm attaching this circle to another piece of cardboard, which will be the stone bottom. I'm using small pieces of duct tape to attach the border, and at the same time I'm shaping the circle into a more odd shape to look more natural and organic. But don't be too zealous here. I did the shapes really odd with many curves, and for the bigger one it was okay, but the smaller stones ended up looking too curvy for my taste. So if you're making smaller stones, just try to make irregular ovals with little curves, and that's it. I'm attaching the borders to the bottom along all the perimeter of the mold to be sure it won't break or leak later. I'm also attaching the duct tape pieces to stick to the border and to the bottom, but not sit at the very junction. Here I'm pulling the tape a little to make a rounded joint to soften the corners a little. I have quite a small path in my little Japanese garden, so I made molds for 5 stones of different sizes in total. And sadly, you can use each mold only once, so if you have a big pathway, you'll have a lot of work with cardboard. As the stones are going to be quite thin, I've decided I want to reinforce them, and so I'm adding a layer of chicken wire. I'm cutting each piece to fit the stone mold. The wire insert should be a little bit smaller to fit into the mold with about ½ an inch extra along the borders. You don't want sharp wire edges to stick from the sides of the stone. After that, I'll prepare the mixture. Here I'm using the same recipe I used for making hypertufa planters. 1 part peat moss, 1 part vermiculite, and 2 parts cement. I wanted the stones to be brownish beige, so I'm adding a bit of brown pigment for concrete as well as reinforcing fibers. After that, I'm stirring and mixing everything really well in order for the fibers get fluffier and to distribute them well throughout the mixture. And finally, I'm adding 1 part water. The mixture should be quite dense and you want it to be kneadable like dough. I'm mixing it by hands because it's easier than using any tool actually. Just be sure to wear heavy-duty gloves to protect your skin well. Cement is extremely harmful for skin. After the mixture is ready, you should be able to make a ball out of it, which will hold its shape. I'll fill the molds. I'm applying the mixture into the mold for about half its height. And after that, I'm placing the chicken wire insert and then filling the mold up to the top. Well, actually I left a little extra as I don't want such a thick stone. And I'm filling all the molds like this and leaving them to sit for a day. The next day, I'm removing the molds and it's time to add some texture. And I'm doing just the same as with hypertufa planters. I'm scratching the surface with a wire brush till I like the look. At this moment, I didn't like the color at all. Here they looked like something not very pleasant, if you know what I mean. But I hoped they would change the color after they are fully dry. In places, I wanted to get a more uneven surface. Real stones are not perfectly flat after all, so I also used a drill with a wire brush drill bit to make some crevices and indents and also make it look a little bit more rough. As you can see, this is an extremely messy job, especially since it was a deep autumn and it was raining the whole day, so I was all covered in mud after this, as well as the lawn. By the way, be sure to cover the lawn well if you don't want to ruin it. Once I liked the final look, I covered the stones and left them for another couple of weeks to fully cure. And I left them for the whole winter and protected after this to be sure they would withstand frosts and snow without cracking or splitting. Luckily they did, and this spring I finished working on them. I still didn't like the color they got after adding the pigment. I wanted them to be much lighter, so I bought some colorants in white, ochre and brownish shades. These are highly pigmented additives to make your custom shades of paint, and you can actually add them to any water-based products. And I'm adding them to a penetrating concrete sealer. It is water-based, and so I'll stain and protect the surface at the same time. I didn't know the exact colorant to sealer ratio which would work, so what I did was add a bit of colorant and then fill a bowl with sealer to the top, making a kind of a colored sealer, and after that I applied the colored sealers randomly over the stones. I also sprinkled the stones with water to make the borders of different colors less visible, and I applied several layers of different colors onto the stones using damp cloths till I liked the final look. It's a bit hard to evaluate the result right away since the sealer is whitish, and therefore the color may look more whitey than it really is, so I ended up making maybe 3 layers till the color was light enough. After the sealer fully dried, I applied a water-repellent sealer to avoid too much water getting into the stones. I applied it generously with a brush over both sides of the stones, paying special attention to the underside, where the stones will touch the ground. This is not so important for those living in a mild climate, but here we have severe frosts in winter, and I want the stones to really last. Finally, I want to try and add some moss to the stones, though I'm not sure this will work. I've collected some moss from an old tree and cut it into small pieces. Then I added a bit of soil and some sour milk and stirred everything well. I got this muddy mixture. And what I'm doing is I'm applying this mud all over the crevices and indents on the stones to make them look more natural and maybe get some moss growing into these crevices with time. After the stones are muddy enough, I'm sprinkling them with water to remove the excess, and finally they are done. All that is left is to place the stones on the pathway. I'm digging the soil to make it loose and trying out the stones to make the path look the best. And after I like the look, I'm removing the stone, making a small hole in the ground and applying some sand here. After that, I'm placing the stone back to place and adding the soil around the stone to make it look a little bit sunk into the ground. And I'm sinking all the stones into the ground like this, the same way. And the very final touch, as I want the stone pathway to look like an ancient mossy path as on Pinterest pictures, I'm planting sedums here. This is chainstone crop, and once settled it actually looks like real moss. I absolutely love how they turned out. You can't tell the stones are fake even at a close-up. They look super natural and go well with the real stones in this part of the garden, which I love. The color also looks very organic and not like cement at all. I'm even thinking of repainting the fountain vessel the same way.
I'm going to be sharing more DIYs for this part of the garden, so if you are interested, please stay tuned. Thanks for being here and hope to see you in my next video. Bye!